What's up, guys? Today I'm going to share with you the secret to muscle gain. Now first we got to separate out cardiovascular exercise and weight training or muscle training. A lot of people are going to the gym doing cardiovascular exercises, getting their heart rate up, running, biking, anything like that, and they're hoping to gain muscle or lose weight. And this might be actually counterintuitive, it might be counterproductive. Cardiovascular is a completely different thing. So with gaining muscle, it has much less to do with the overall nutrition. It has more to do with the actual technique, so making sure that your form is good with every exercise, and then maximizing your use of time and energy, and so minimizing the amount of cardiovascular work that you're actually doing. So that means if you're doing a bicep curl or any exercise, if you're using a weight, it's much less important the amount of reps that you do, and it's much more important that you use the correct form, that you go slowly, and that you hover at the pump point or the maximum squeeze point where you feel the maximum tension or the maximum pain in some instances at the peak of the curl or the peak of the press or whatever, any machine, weights, or even without weights. And in this video I'm going to go into also a technique that you can do without weights. So you are going to gain some muscle if you go out cycling, or you run. Even if you're engaging your muscles at all, you're going to build some muscles. But a lot of people are going to reach a peak pretty easily in that, and they're not going to gain muscle tone or real muscle fitness. And a lot of people are at the gym actually trying to gain muscle, and they're really kind of wasting their time doing a lot of reps is one of the main points here. So if you are focusing on going nice and slow, staying within the tension points. So here with the push-up, you don't want to go further than the elbows being basically a 90-degree angle. You'll hear a lot of people say, go to the floor, go all the way to the floor. It's kind of useless. You're straining your shoulders at that point. A lot of people get shoulder injuries partially from this, and it's the exact same if you're doing bench press or anything where you're bringing yourself into the chest. Once you go past the 90-degree point, you're working out your shoulders instead. You're not squeezing on the chest anymore. So you want to stay within that 90 degrees. And then when you go all the way up, you don't want to lock your shoulders. You want to stay within a tension point. So the whole time you're doing the rep, it is slow, and there's no point that your muscles get relieved. And there's no point that that tension gets transferred onto your joints and ends up messing up your joints long term or putting unnecessary pressure on your joints. So all of this is low impact. You can build muscle without any high impact exercises, without any high intensity exercises, and you can do this from home as well. You don't need a lot of weights. In fact, with most of these exercises, once you slow right down and once you remain on the squeeze point, you really don't need weights at all for most muscle groups. So whether you're using weights or whether you're using what I would consider the actual secret here, the secret to muscle gain, which I will get to, we find it best to split it up into 5 muscle groups, 5 days, and that's 5 big muscle groups, 5 small muscle groups. And you can switch it up, you can try things around, but we tend to believe that the most efficient way to do it is doing 1 big muscle per day, 1 small muscle per day. And if you were going to the gym and doing this traditionally, you'd be doing 10 reps of this weight and then going up 5 pounds and then doing 10 more reps and then adding 5 pounds and then trying to get to 8, etc. But if you're losing the whole rep concept and you're going for slowness and you're going for maximum form, perfect form, so up and down nice and slow, and then squeezing at that pump point and staying at that pump point wherever the maximum tension is on every exercise, you're going to end up doing a lot less reps, and you're going to need a lot less time to really tire out your muscles. And if you think about it, if you're going in there and you're doing 1 rep, 2 rep, 3 rep, you're only hitting that pump point for a fraction of a second each time. So all you have to do is hover around it, even for just a few seconds, and now you've gotten the equivalent of a whole set, done just with a squeeze, a tight squeeze. And again, the real secret is losing the weights altogether and focusing on that squeeze itself. And you can do that just by flexing. Basically just by flexing, like you would be in a mirror, showing off your biceps or showing off your lats, and you're holding that squeeze. And bodybuilders do this. They do this not just to practice their form and not just to look good and make sure that they know how to hit it when they're on stage, but that actually is forcing tension, forcing energy, forcing all the juices into these muscles. And it's pretty much the equivalent of doing a rep. And of course, there's some things that you can't really do just by squeezing, especially with legs. You need to introduce tension some other way, but you can squeeze them and just flex them, and it will help. It will help develop them as well, and it will help with that sculpted bodybuilding tone. And P.S. a lot of prison guys know this as well, and this is part of how some of them come out so ripped. It's not just by doing push-ups, it's by somehow stumbling onto the secret that if you go way slower and you keep the tension on the whole time, you get ripped up really quick without all the effort, all the energy necessary, and going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, burning yourself out, using all the energy and movement itself rather than in the actual squeeze itself. So you could do it in your bedroom, you could do it in a bathroom, you could do it in the living room, you could do it on a mountaintop. Possibilities are endless. If you isolate each muscle group and squeeze them appropriately, whether you're using weights or not, or introduce tension appropriately, again, weights or not, machines or not, or both, a mix of both, you will absolutely see muscle gain almost no matter what you eat. We do preach good nutrition, but you can eat bread and gain muscle. You'll still have a gluten problem or whatever, you might have acne, something like that, but you will still gain muscle is kind of the point. This is the hack through it all. And in the gym we used to talk about, it's 90% diet and 10% what you do in the gym, and I don't believe it anymore, because again, you see results when you do the form correctly. You slow it down, you focus on that tension, focus on that pump, and isolate the muscle groups appropriately. The major muscle groups, PS, would be back, chest, legs, you split into two, quads and hamstrings. You can do those together, it's no problem. And the last major muscle group is shoulders. The small muscle groups are the biceps, triceps, calves, traps. It's the muscles on top of the shoulders connecting the neck, and the forearms. And each one of these is important on its own. If you go into the gym or you do just the flexing exercise and you do all of them, it's much less efficient. You're gonna want to really put pressure on one or two of those muscle groups, and then maybe you do the opposing one the next day. Maybe you find even you're too sore, so sometimes maybe biceps, maybe you're too sore to do triceps the next day, so that day you do calves and shoulders or something like that, and you switch that up every week. And that's the gist of it if you were doing this in the gym. And again, you can hack that. And if I were to go into a gym, I would like to use a few machines, like I said, especially for legs. The leg extension machines and the hamstring curls, and even the abductor adductor machines, a very effective way to get the inside and outside of the legs. But those can be achieved as well, just with other physical, not necessarily exercises, but physical activity. Swimming doesn't need to be high intensity. It is low impact by default because it's in the water. But engaging these muscles in ways like swimming and hiking and just living life, throwing a frisbee, walking the dog, that fills in the rest of the gaps and allows you to achieve fitness pretty casually. You don't need to put in hours in the gym. You don't need to go 7 days a week. And truthfully, doing the 5 days a week, that will get you jacked and ripped up so quickly that you won't need to do that level unless you want to keep growing. Basically, it's pretty easy to maintain a pretty good level of fitness, and if you do want to pump yourself up, you can do that once a week, and you can maintain a pretty healthy form, again, without a lot of the energy. So, by the way, for the secret exercise, which is just flexing, again, and P.S., the stretching is just as important after you're done flexing or working out in general. You want to stretch. There's some disagreement on whether it's more optimal to stretch before or after. I prefer both, actually. Do a nice stretch before and after. And again, you're skipping all of the exercise part of this and just focusing on treating the muscles themselves. So stretch them out, flex them, and my optimum formula for that is 20 breaths per muscle. And that means you really only have to do one exercise. If you do it properly, say bicep squeeze, so you're flexing in a mirror or not to its maximum squeeze, as hard as you can squeeze, and it should actually kind of hurt. If you do that for 20 deep meditative breaths, you're also getting into meditation. You should be keeping your heart rate nice and low, and that's quite a lot of stress on those biceps. And if you go back to thinking about how many reps you would have to do at traditional speed, up, down, up, down, up, down, only hitting that pump point for a fraction of a second while holding it for 20 long, deep breaths, fully breathing in, fully filling that second cavity of the lung, and then fully expelling out that entire breath, and then going back in and doing that 20 full times. It should actually take a few minutes there. You should go through a few songs while you're doing that. And again, 2 muscle groups. So you do that for the biceps and you do that for the chest. Squeeze it as hard as you can, or do it for the back and the triceps in one day, or whatever. Again, you could do this with your calves, you can do this with your traps, you can do this with your quads and hamstrings, although throwing in some muscles machines to help this out is a good idea, and throwing in some, of course, life stuff, so you're engaging your muscles in some other way other than just your controlled exercises. And your controlled exercises, in this case even just the flexing and stretching, will just blow the muscles out to what you wouldn't get naturally, what you wouldn't get just from exercising with a bicycle or running or boxing or whatever. It pushes you to the next level. And this is also with your weight training again as well. A lot of people hit their peak with weight training and they can't seem to get any bigger, they can't seem to get any more defined. Could be a bit of a diet thing, cutting out some the bad foods and the carbs and the sugar, to allow you to really get toned. But more than likely, the muscles aren't really being stressed at that maximum pump point efficiently, and that's what's holding you back. So that is about the amount of detail I wanted to go into. I guess the only other thing that I would want to mention would be that this is kind of also the key to weight loss as well. Of course, I would put another video aside just to cover nutrition and how that can impact weight loss and how you can lose weight just with changing nutrition. But if you were going to do it through fitness, or a combination of nutrition and fitness, building the muscle, we used to say that muscle eats fat, right? As you gain muscle, it takes away the fat kind of automatically. And a lot of people will come into the gym and say, well, I just want to get in better shape, or I want to lose some weight, I don't want to become all jacked up. Well, you don't have to become one of these muscle heads by doing this. Just by gaining the amount of muscle you want, you can look in the mirror and choose to not go so intense, or choose to fall off a little bit. You don't need to, and you will, no matter what, have to go the extra mile to get really jacked up anyways. But even the average person can put on quite a lot of muscle in this way. And this is everything we talked about here. Old people could do this as well, right? Somebody who's been stuck in a chair for a long time could implement some of these things and force energy into their muscles without any actual exercise, without any weights, right? And it will help. It should help. This should help for circulation and overall energy. It is a form of exercise, right? Exercise does not have to be high intensity. Yoga and Tai Chi and some of these things are very low intensity. You don't have to raise your heart rate at all, and yet you could still use it as a method to gain fitness and to incorporate exercise in your life. So if there is anything else you guys want to see, let me know. This video has been asked for a lot. I hope I covered everything that is necessary. And by the way, if you are doing just the flexing, literally just to test that out, do that with discipline 5 days a week. Focus on each muscle group 5 days a week, 2 of them, 1 big one, 1 small one, match them up. And you will get results just with that, I promise. And that's if it's on top of an existing gym regime or not. You will see a change in your fitness by doing this. And if you throw away the rep concept, stay on the pump point when you're doing every exercise, you should really maximize the time that you are in the gym. And conserve your energy. Don't need to sit around drinking water, catching your breath before the next set, right? These sets can be jammed together really quickly because you're not tired. You're tiring out your muscle without tiring out yourself. And that's the secret, guys. That's the secret to muscle gain. So I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.